Why are Kopi Luwak coffee beans the most expensive in the world? What delicacy is made from seal meat and why is it better not to eat it? I'm going to tell you about strange, exotic dishes. Enjoy your meal after watching. You will learn about the culinary preferences of people from different countries, which, if not shocking, will certainly arouse curiosity. I would say bon appetit, but let's watch the whole video first. Tonzidim. First, I suggest we head to Zhejiang province in eastern China. There, the locals love a delicacy called tunzidan, which translates to boy's egg. Don't worry, it's actually just chicken eggs, but the way they're prepared will probably shock you. Every spring, elementary school children urinate in special buckets. The collected urine is used to boil chicken eggs. It's believed that the urine of boys under 10 years old has healing properties, and it positively affects the circulatory system and immunity. I warn you, scientific medicine does not confirm this. The process of making tunzidan takes a whole day. First, the eggs are boiled in boiling urine, then the shells are cracked so the liquid can seep inside, and they are boiled again for 12 hours, constantly adding more urine. As a result, the eggs become salty in taste and acquire a distinctive aroma, which, according to some reports, it even attracts tourists. Tunzidan is actively sold on the streets in the spring. Despite the unusual cooking method, this dish costs twice as much as regular eggs. Many locals are confident in its beneficial properties and can eat several pieces a day. Would you dare to try eggs boiled in such an unusual sauce? Eggs with legs. The next dish will definitely make even the bravest foodie shudder. We're going to talk about balut. It's also called eggs with legs and is prepared in a very unusual way. This delicacy is most popular in the Philippines, Thailand, and Cambodia. At first glance, balut is just a boiled duck egg, but it's not that simple. The delicacy is prepared as follows. The egg is kept for 14 to 21 days, until a duckling forms inside. It should be almost fully developed, with a beak and even feathers. Then, the egg is boiled. During boiling, the amniotic fluid is preserved, which is eaten without fail, as people in Asia believe it's incredibly healthy. Balut is eaten sprinkled with salt and pepper. In Thailand, it's added to omelets and fillings for pastries. In Cambodia, it is served with lime juice and crushed chili, and in the Philippines, it is served with broth and greens. It's believed that balut magically affects male potency and enriches the body with beneficial nutrients. Travelers who have tried various exotic culinary delights say that after fried scorpions and crickets, balut is the next level. They say that after fried scorpions and crickets, balut is the next level. If you're not at the balut level yet, then get ready for an unusual dish from Iceland. This is the next level. If you're not at the balut level yet, then get ready for an unusual dish from Iceland. Are you ready? Shark meat. How's it going, Carl? The pride of Icelandic cuisine was passed down to the Icelanders from the Vikings. Hakarl is dried meat from the Greenland shark. But don't rush to grab a fork in its raw form. This meat is deadly poisonous due to its high urea content. After catching the shark, it's cut up and placed in containers with gravel so that the juices filled with toxins can drain out. The meat simmers in its own juices, giving off an unbearable smell for about 2 months. Then it's taken out and hung to dry for a few more months, removing the remaining toxins. Only after 6 months is the meat ready to eat. Unfortunately, even after rotting for several months, the meat still has a strong smell that resembles a public restroom. It tastes like sturgeon or squid, but the smell of urine is so strong that newcomers are advised to pinch their noses. In Iceland, hakarl is an essential part of Christmas and New Year celebrations, when real Vikings test their endurance by eating this delicacy. If you decide to try hakarl, just know you're stepping onto the path of the Vikings by eating this delicacy. If you decide to try hakarl, just know you're stepping onto the path of the Vikings. Let's leave Iceland and head back to Asia, where they really love eggs. Century egg. When you think of eggs, what comes to mind? Boiled, fried, omelet. What about eggs that are aged for several months? 600 years ago in the Hunan province of China, a farmer discovered duck eggs in a shallow puddle of lime. After trying them, he decided to make more, this time adding salt to enhance their flavor. As a result, an unusual delicacy emerged, known as century egg or pidon. In total, it's a duck or chicken egg, which are aged in a mixture of lime, salt, ash, and tea for several weeks or months. As a result, the egg white becomes translucent and dark, and the yolk takes on a creamy texture and a greenish tint. The taste of a century egg is reminiscent of duck liver pâté. At first glance, they might seem intimidating because of their distinct ammonia smell, but many foodies appreciate them for their unique flavor. In different regions of China, they eat them in various ways. Some places slice them up and drizzle vinegar on top, while in other regions, they're served with pickled ginger or with soft tofu, soy sauce, and sesame oil. Has anyone tried this delicacy? Share in the comments. Rotten delicacy. You know, there were times when salt was expensive, and people had to save it, along with salted fish. People couldn't afford it. And in Sweden in the 16th century, they managed to prepare herring with very little salt. This dish has made it to today. However, it has become a delicacy that not everyone dares to try. This dish has made it to today. The truth is, it has become a delicacy that not everyone dares to try. It's called surströmming, fermented herring. It's famous for its incredibly strong smell, which makes many people feel nauseous. This isn't salted herring. It's fish that has been fermenting in its own juices for several months. The fish is soaked in a salt solution for a couple of days, and then it's placed in a weak salt solution for fermentation. After that, it's packed into cans, which often bulge from the gases that build up inside. If you open a can of surströmming indoors, the smell is so strong that it's better described as an explosion of scent. How do you eat this bomb? In Sweden, surströmming is served with boiled potatoes, onions, and buttered crisp bread, sometimes accompanied by beer or schnapps. Despite the terrible smell, Swedes consider this dish a true delicacy. Would you bring a gift like that from Sweden? Seal meat. The previous dishes smell and taste unpleasant, but you can eat them without fearing for your life. If you suddenly decide to try the next dish, there's a high chance you'll get seriously poisoned. But you can eat them without fearing for your life. If you suddenly decide to try the next dish, there's a high chance you'll get seriously poisoned. This dish can only be eaten by northern peoples, like the Inganasan, Chukchi, Inets, Tanti, and Eskimos. Over many centuries, their bodies have gotten used to the toxins and no longer react to them. Kapalchin, a traditional dish of the northern peoples. What is it and how is it prepared? The carcass of the animal, whether it's a seal or a walrus, is buried in the swamp or under a layer of peat for several months. The fermentation process happens naturally, turning the meat into kapalchin. The finished dish is eaten by the locals in thin slices. The meat has an extremely sharp, unpleasant smell, but for the northern peoples, it's a real treat. Kapalchin tastes like bitter, unsalted lard. But in fact, this is not just a strange dish, but a deadly one for people who are not used to it. The thing is, during its preparation, a corpse toxin is released along with larvae in the cheese. Have you ever imagined the cheese can not only have mold but also larvae? Kasu marzu literally translates to rotten cheese, and it's the most unusual cheese in the world. Because this cheese is not just old and spoiled, it actually has live and jumping cheese fly larvae inside it. Kasu marzu is produced exclusively in Sardinia. The history of this dish goes back to difficult times, when food couldn't be thrown away even if it was spoiled. When cheesemakers accidentally discovered that their cheese was infested with fly larvae, throwing it away was too wasteful. They decided to try it, and surprisingly the cheese turned out to be delicious. And that's how the tradition of making kasu marzu began, and it has lasted for centuries. Kasu marzu is an incredibly spicy, hot, and even pungent cheese. It is recommended to eat it with bread and wash it down with red wine. However, the main rule is to remember to wear glasses. The larvae, which don't like being disturbed, can jump right into your eye. Even though the cheese has a sharp and repulsive smell, in Sardinia, it's considered a true delicacy. One piece of this cheese can easily satisfy an adult's hunger for an entire day. Nevertheless, due to the specifics of its production, casu marzu is banned for sale in European Union countries, but Italy has protected it and allowed local producers to make this unique product. So, how about trying cheese with some very unexpected additions? But Italy has protected it and allowed local producers to make this unique product. So, are you tempted to try cheese with some very unexpected additions? Kiviak. Don't rush to turn off the video, because otherwise, you won't find out what Eskimos eat to survive the cold winter. This dish combines seal and hundreds of little birds. I'm not joking. This is a real festive dish of the people in Greenland called kiviak. To make it, you need a seal and several hundred little birds. Little birds that they are used as filling. Kiviak is a delicacy. It's traditionally prepared for big holidays and festivals. The process starts with the hunt. First, they hunt the seal, and then about 400 little birds. The seal is beheaded, and its body is stuffed with the carcasses of these birds, without removing the feathers or the insides. After that, the cut on the seal's belly is stitched up and filled with fat to keep it juicy. This whole setup is buried in the ground, where it sits and matures for several months, and sometimes even a year. Under the influence of natural fermentation, the meat of the seal and the birds slowly breaks down, giving the dish a unique taste and smell. Many people compare the taste of kiviak to very old and shark cheese. The smell is so intense that it's usually eaten outdoors. Are you ready for such a culinary challenge? Lutefisk. If you still remember the fish delicacy surströmming, then next I'm going to tell you about another Scandinavian one. A traditional fish dish. Legend has it that once a Viking ship carrying cod caught fire, and after the fish lay under the ashes for several months, it was soaked in seawater. And, surprisingly, it turned out to be quite tasty. Since then, lutefisk has become a source of national pride for some Scandinavians. Lutefisk is made from dried cod. The name literally translates to fish in lye. First, the fish is dried. Then it's soaked in a lye solution for 3 days. In the past, they used ash for this, but now they use caustic soda. After that, the fish is rinsed in clean water for several days, until it becomes jelly-like and takes on that sharp smell that literally knocks many people off their feet. Lutefisk is served with mustard, pepper, and a side of potatoes or pea puree, and sometimes even with bacon. As for taste, lutefisk is described as slightly fishy with a soapy aftertaste and a slight hint of ammonia. Some people think it tastes like jelly and fish aspic. Some people love it, others joke that it's not food, but a weapon of mass destruction. Would you like to give it a try? Kopaluvak. Hey friends, what kind of coffee do you prefer? How do you feel about drinking coffee that has passed through the stomach of a little animal? That kind of coffee really exists. An ITS name. Kopi Luwak. This unusual drink is considered one of the most expensive in the world and is produced on farms in Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines. The main character of the whole process is a small carnivorous animal called a civet. It really loves ripe coffee cherries. After swallowing them, the civet only digests the pulp of the berries, while the beans remain almost untouched, just lightly processed with enzymes. People collect these beans, wash them carefully, dry them, and then brew a unique coffee from them. The taste of Kopi Luwak is hard to compare to anything else. Coffee critics describe it as creamy and chocolatey, with a slight bitterness and a pleasant aftertaste. The drink has a delicate nutty note and a slight hint of butter. At the same time, the caffeine level in this coffee is a bit lower than usual, thanks to the fermentation process the beans go through. This unusual process was discovered by people back during the Dutch colonization. In Indonesia, locals saw civets on coffee plantations collecting beans, inspiring coffee from civet-processed beans. But they noticed that civets were sneaking onto the plantations and helping them gather the precious beans. And that's how the idea of making coffee from beans that have passed through the digestive system of these little animals came about. Kopi Luwak is prepared in different ways. In Vietnam, they brew it right in the cup with some sweetened condensed milk added. But at home, it's better to make it in a says without any extras. In Vietnam, they brew it right in the cup with some sweetened condensed milk added. At home, it's better to cook it in a Turk without any additives, to reveal pure taste. Would you dare to try such an exotic drink? And that brings us to the end of our video about the strangest and most exotic dishes in the world. What did you feel when you looked at these unusual delicacies? Shock, surprise, curiosity. However, they are an integral part of the cultures of the peoples who created them. Write in the comments which of these dishes impressed you the most and why. As you can see, there are many amazing and unusual things in our world that can completely change our perception of the ordinary. And if you're also drawn to amazing discoveries, we have some great news. We are looking for talented people who can help us create equally amazing and unusual videos. If you know how to edit, do voiceovers in different languages, or write creative scripts, we would love to work with you. Just message our Telegram bot. We would be happy to work with you. Message our Telegram bot. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on new interesting episodes.